This video is about lighting techniques for fashion photography. Specifically, I'm going to be breaking down 22 different lighting techniques with over 125 individual images based on my experience having run a brand for the last 5 years. Even though I'm not a photographer, studying these techniques and understanding the basics of how these images were shot has unlocked new vocabulary and a better understanding of photography in general, so I can better articulate my influences, what I like, and what I want to shoot to a photographer, and then can best execute on my vision. My name is Chris Drago. I've been running a brand called Pathos of Things for about 5 years now, and I make videos on YouTube documenting my process, so I can get 1% better every day at being a creative director, art director, and brand owner. Hard lighting is achieved with a direct, undiffused light source. This lighting produces sharp shadows and high contrast, emphasizes textures like you can see here in the hair, very hard shadow, and creates dramatic effects. Hard lighting can enhance textures in clothing and adds drama by creating a moody vibe. On the contrary, soft lighting is achieved using soft boxes. It creates gentle shadows with smooth transitions from light to shadow, as you can see here. This type of lighting is very flattering for skin and textures in garments. This type of lighting is achieved with soft boxes and diffusers. The e-commerce photos for Represent use very diffused light. As you can see, there are barely any shadows, and the subject is clearly separated from the background. In this image, this woman's face is not casting any shadow, and her features are clearly defined against the background. The transition from light to shadow is extremely smooth. Amiri's e-commerce photos also use diffused light, casting very minimal shadows, separating the subject from the background, and creates subtle shadows on the model's face. Next is specular lighting, which produces bright highlights and reflections. This type of lighting emphasizes shiny surfaces and adds sparkle that beams undiffused light directly to a round or shiny object, like with this ball here and this light bulb, and the way that the light falls on this man's head, and in these photos as well. The light is brightest in these areas, and then that light is dispersed across the surrounding area, like you can see in these photos. Next is high key lighting, which utilizes bright, even lighting with minimal shadows. As you can see here, minimal shadows on the face or behind the model, which creates a clean, airy, and optimistic atmosphere, which is ideal for beauty and fashion shoots that require a light and soft feel. In post-production, the whites are usually increased. Next is low key lighting, characterized by darker tones and shadows. The lighting is minimal, which produces a dramatic, mysterious, and intimate mood, suited for edgy fashion editorials and emphasizing textures. As you can see here, the light is only falling on this side of her face, indicating a light source over here, and very little light on this side. All of these photos are dramatic and mysterious because of the low-key lighting used. Small light sources, dramatic shadows. Next is flat lighting, which illuminates the subject evenly from the front, minimizes shadows and textures. It's common in beauty photography to highlight flawless skin. As you can see here, face is evenly lit from the front. Maybe the camera is at a little bit of an angle because it's a little brighter on this side of her nose, but generally the lighting is very flat. The lighting is extremely flat in these photos as well. Notice how you do not see shadows falling more on one side of the face over the other. Next is broad lighting. The way that you achieve broad lighting is by illuminating the side of the face that is closest to the camera. This makes the face appear wider and is used to balance facial features for subjects with narrower faces. As you can see here on this photo, Michael B. Jordan, the side of his face that's closest to the camera is illuminated, and the far side of his face is not as illuminated. This creates a visual effect where the face appears wider. I'll demonstrate in these photos as well. The close side of her face is illuminated by the light, and the far side of her face is not, which creates width. Same thing for this photo. The far side of his face is not as illuminated, which creates width. Okay, hopefully you get the point. Okay, now short lighting is the opposite of broad lighting, and luckily, in this Michael B. Jordan photo shoot, there's a portrait of him using broad lighting and a portrait of him using short lighting. Short lighting illuminates the side of the face that's turned away or furthest from the camera. Just think about it as the opposite of broad lighting. And instead of making the face seem wide, it actually makes the face seem more narrow by creating depth and a slimming effect. So here in this photo of Michael B. Jordan, the side of his face that's closest to the camera is not illuminated, and the side of his face that's furthest from the camera is illuminated. Same thing with this photo. Because the majority of the face is in this shadow here, the main focus becomes this area. So when your focus is on this area, this is a much smaller surface area than all of this, which ends up making her face seem more slim. Here's just one more example. So as you can see, the close side of her face is dark and the far side of her face is illuminated. Next we have clamshell lighting. You achieve clamshell lighting when you put two lights in front of the subject, one above and one below. So there's a light up here and a light down here, which illuminates the chin and the forehead, and then creates shadows here, which creates flattering portrait photos. As you can see here, forehead and chin, clamshell. Kind of creates the shape of a clam. You can achieve this style of photo by having a light above the subject with a softbox, and then you can set up here that will send the light subtly up to the chin. Next is split lighting, which divides the face into equal halves of light and shadow. This adds drama and emphasizes facial contours, which is effective for edgy and dramatic portraits. One half of their face is dark and the other half is light. So that's split lighting. Next is Rembrandt lighting, which creates a triangular light on the cheek of the shadowed side. Adds a painterly feel, named after the famous painter Rembrandt, and is popular in fashion portraits to create a timeless look. Next is butterfly lighting. For this style, a light source is placed above and in front of the subject, which produces a butterfly-shaped shadow underneath the nose. Light source above and in front of the subject, and then here's the butterfly-shaped shadow underneath the nose. Light source above and in front of the subject, butterfly-shaped shadow here, and then in this photo again, light source above and in front, butterfly shadow under the nose. Next is backlighting, where you place the main light source behind the subject, which creates a silhouette or halo effect, as you can see here, which creates clear separation between the subject and the background. You can use artificial light or natural light for backlighting. Next, rim lighting, which illuminates the edges of the subject from behind. This outlines the subject with light, enhancing their shape, and adds depth and dimension to the image. Next is underlighting. It's achieved by positioning the light source below the subject, which creates unusual and dramatic shadows for avant-garde and experimental fashion shoots. The opposite of underlighting is overhead lighting, where light is placed directly above the subject instead of below, which casts shadows downward, emphasizing facial features, like you could see in both of these photos. This creates intensity and adds focus to the facial structure. Next is natural lighting, which utilizes sunlight as the primary light source. It produces authentic and organic images and is common in outdoor fashion shoots. Next is ambient lighting, which refers to the existing light in the environment before any flash or additional light is added. So all of these photos are examples of ambient light. The key lighting in this photo comes strictly from the sun, which is naturally occurring in this environment. In this shot, the ambient lighting is coming from the lights set up in this bar and on this stage. It wouldn't appear that any flash or additional lighting is used. Ambient lighting can also appear in cities naturally. In this photo, no additional lights were used. The only illumination is coming strictly from the environment. Next is golden hour lighting, which involves shooting during the first hour after sunrise or the first hour before sunset. This time of day creates warm, soft light with long shadows, perfect for outdoor fashion shoots that call for a natural glow. Next, we have blue hour lighting. This type of lighting can be achieved during the twilight period. This creates a cool and tranquil atmosphere, used in fashion photography that needs a serene backdrop. Next is chiaroscuro lighting, moody lighting that creates strong contrast between light and dark. This adds depth and a three-dimensional quality, inspired by Renaissance art but popularized in film noir. As you can see in all of these photos, there is stark contrast between dark and light. Gobo lighting uses patterns or stencils between the light and subject, which projects shapes and textures onto a scene. Gobo lighting is used to create this style of chiaroscuro lighting, where a stencil is used to create the effect simulating light coming through blinds in a window, as you can see in these photos as well. And last on my list today, we have color gel lighting, which applies colored gels to the lights, introducing hues for mood and artistic expression, used in editorials and thematic shoots that use two-tone color palettes. Okay, so that is it for today's video about lighting techniques for creative directors and for fashion photography. It's a little bit of a crash course. Again, I myself am not a photographer, but I do think that having a basic understanding and developing an eye for the differences between these styles contributes to effective communication with a photographer or art director to make sure that when I'm doing a shoot, everybody's on the same page about my vision. If you have any questions or if there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave a comment and I'll see you in the next one.